All right, we're going to look at a problem. We're going to let P equal some point, an xy coordinate, on the graph of y equals x squared minus 8. Okay, let's think about that for a second. That would be a parabola that's opening upward, and the minus 8 really means that that vertex and every single point on the original parabola is going to be slid down to negative 8. Okay, negative 8 steps. Okay, so the actual question that's being asked of us is express the distance d, and I'm very sorry about my messy handwriting. It's real hard on using a stylus, so bear with me. From the point 0, negative 1 to a point on the parabola above, which is y equals x squared minus 8 as a function of x. Okay, so what this is really asking is if I could take a point 0, negative 1. Okay, 0, negative 1 would be right about here, okay? And then just find the distance from any point on the parabola to that point. So there, or any other point that I would choose on this parabola, find that distance. All right, sounds like fun. So let's go ahead, and we can't really do this problem. First of all, we got to remember y equals x squared minus 8. That's the parabola that we're looking at. And you have to remember back from probably your geometry class, there's a distance formula, which is if you're given 2 points, if you're given one coordinate you call x1, y1, and the other one x2, y2, the actual distance between those two is x1 minus x2 squared plus y1 minus y2 squared. Okay, so let's think about this. If we're talking about this parabola here, and we want to name kind of a generic point on that parabola, if you put in an x, this is what's going to come out as your y. So you could actually, this is kind of key here, name this coordinate x and then x squared minus 8 as your y value. Okay, hopefully that makes sense to you. The other point that we're trying to find the distance from was 0, negative 1. So let's do it. Okay. Since we're using this formula here, let's call this one my x1 and my y1 and my x2 and my y2. So if I did that and I plugged into this distance formula, 2 lines above or 1 line above, x1 minus x2 would be x minus 0, and we have to square it, plus y1 minus y2 would be, see if you follow me here, x squared minus 8 minus the negative 1, which would really be plus 1, right? And we're going to square that. Now let's come up to the side on that. Little side note here. This would simplify to x squared minus 7 quantity squared, which is really x squared minus 7 times x squared minus 7. So if you use FOIL on that, you're going to get x to the 4th for your firsts. Your inners would be minus 7x squared, and your outers would be minus 7x squared, so minus 14x squared, and then your last would be plus 49. So we could write this to kind of simplify this. This right here is just going to be x squared plus what I got up in the right hand corner here, x to the 4th minus 14x squared plus 49. which is going to be square root of, let's see, we'll have x to the 4th, and then we combine, so that's done. Positive 1x squared minus 14x squared would be minus 13x squared plus 49. Okay, so just to express that distance, my answer is this. Okay, and I'm going to keep that in mind. We got one more part to this question, and that is, what is the distance? There's two parts actually. What is the distance if x equals 0? So remember, the distance that I got from the last screen was the generic one, x to the 4th minus 13x squared plus 49, and then I'm going to put a 0 in for x, so that's going to be 0, and when I multiply the 13 by 0, that's also going to be 0, so it's basically going to be square root 49, which is 7. Okay, great. Now, what about if x equals -1? Okay, use that same distance formula up here, but we're going to put a -1 in, so it'd be -1 to the 4th, okay, which is going to be just 1, right, because it's a negative to an even power, minus 13 times -1 squared. Well, that would be minus 13, and then of course plus my 49. So if I do the math on that, that comes out to be square root of 37, or it's approximately 6.08 if you want to know what that is. Okay, it doesn't give any units, so we're just going to call that our answer. All right, so to go back, probably the most important things are, we wanted to, first of all, we drew a picture to kind of get our understanding of what they were asking me, and then we recalled the distance formula here, right here, okay, but probably the biggest key to this is this part where we wrote the coordinate on the graph as x squared minus 8. That's really critical, because after that it was just plugging into the distance formula and then plugging in the two numbers they gave us. All right, thank you for watching.